Triple H pissed about a former star's promo. Hey, WWE re-signing was super last minute. My reviews of last night's NXT Showdown and AEW Title Tuesday, and more. I'm Luke Owen, and this is the WrestleTalk News.
Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe.
2025 was a big year for Karrion Kross. Not so much as an on-screen character, but that was a big part of the problem. Kross became an internet favourite, and chants and hashtags of "We Want Kross" dominated online discourse as he wasn't featured on Monday Night Raw all that much. He entered into a program with AJ Styles, which really served as a backdrop for Styles vs Logan Paul at WrestleMania, where Kross was a major part of AJ losing. That never amounted to anything, and Kross was moved into a program with Sami Zayn, which he ultimately lost at SummerSlam, which would end up being Karrion's final match in WWE. Despite getting huge reactions and having one of the top-selling t-shirts over WrestleMania weekend, Kross decided to leave WWE when his contract expired. There was so much chatter online about how over Kross was that there was a lot of speculation the whole exit could be a work and he'll be back soon. We had former TNA World Champion James Storm in this very studio believing the whole thing was a work. And part of the reason people thought it was a work was because Kross himself had done a work shoot promo over WrestleMania weekend where he tore into WWE Creative and his role within the company. He said that he was kept off the WrestleMania card because WWE were only interested in viral moments, highlighting the choice of having Joe Hendry face Randy Orton over him. He said, "Everyone's been telling me you've got to become undeniable, and as soon as it happened, they ignore it. They shut it down. I never asked to wrestle Randy. That happened organically, and you ignored it for a viral moment. Nothing against Joe, good on him, but you ignored it." He ended that promo signing off with his indie name Killer Kross and added, "You want a viral moment? On behalf of all the true fans of professional wrestling, hey guy in the suit and tie in the truck, go funk yourself." It became pretty apparent on the Raw after Mania when this promo wasn't brought up that this was not going to lead to a new creative direction for Karrion Kross. Following his departure from WWE, Kross did an interview with Ariel Helwani where he said the guy in the suit he was talking about was not Triple H, and he cleared the air with him over what was said. And he reiterated that in a new interview with Chris Van Vliet, but added that he got a call from Talent Relations that said the creative team were super mad about the promo and there was now heat on Kross because they were pissed. Kross said that he felt he needed to apologize as he never meant to upset anyone, so went to go and smooth things over. He says in the interview, "I go across the hall, I speak to some of the writers, explain everything. They're like, we have no idea what you're talking about. We haven't talked to that guy in 2 weeks. Some of them didn't even see it. So I was like, what's going on here?" Kross says he spent the rest of the day trying to find the person who had heat with him over the promo, but everyone was fine. He tried to call the guy in Talent Relations and got no answer. He called him again the following day and got no answer. Finally, he spoke with him. Kross says, "I think it was like the third day he finally picked up. He's like, yeah, I shouldn't have said it that way. I apologize. It was actually Hunter." Like with the Helwani interview, Kross is clear that he and Triple H are now fine. He explains, "I eventually did speak with Hunter, cleared the air with him. It's a massive company with a lot of different departments and not all of them are in lockstep with communication. He was super cool about it. Once we spoke to him, he understood where I was coming from and what I was trying to do." Before we get into the NXT and AEW reviews, Fightful Select reported that Xavier Woods has re-signed with WWE on a new multi-year deal. Woods himself confirmed this news via his social media. Sean Ross Sapp reports that Woods' deal was actually up in September and it came rather close to fully expiring before he re-signed. SRS writes, "Those that we spoke to said that the deal came down to the wire and was actually only finalized in September." Interestingly, the rest of New Day, Kofi Kingston and Big E signed their previous deals the same time as Woods, but it's unclear when their contracts are up because injury time might have been added on. But Sean Ross Sapp is clear in saying it's not confirmed if that's the case. But aside from Big E and Kofi, there will be more contract chat coming up soon. As Sean Ross Sapp tweeted it in the wake of Santos Escobar leaving WWE following Monday Night Raw, we've seen Killer Kross, Jasmine Nix and Santos Escobar all pass on WWE offers in the last few months. There might be more coming too. Speaking of Escobar, and on Wrestling Observer Radio, Brian Alvarez speculated that he could be heading to AEW now he's a free agent. And Dave Meltzer replied that, "I do know multiple people there who expect him to go to AEW. One of those people might be Roosh, who posted to his social media that he believes his LFI group in AEW needs a new member. Now, before we do get into the reviews, yesterday Brian Children had a chance to earn back his spot here at WrestleTalk if, and only if, he could do some competent interviews with the stars of Clash of the Comics. Now, you did good yesterday, Brian. Let's see how you do today. Over to you.
Hello, it's me, Brian Children, on his last chance for WrestleTalk, and I'm here to talk with Ed Gamble, who's going to be facing Phil Wang for this belt very, very soon. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are Phil Wang is attempting to get this belt off me, and we are all going to witness what a dirty little pathetic slug man he is. This is my title. Yes, I may have taken it off him in an illegal fashion, but sometimes illegal is more fun, especially at my little underground casino. Phil Wang's a bitch, Ed Gamble.
I didn't mess a single thing up.
Yeah, not bad. That was another solid interview. He didn't embarrass himself, his trousers didn't fall down. Do you know what? Good work, Brian. You've actually got one more shot because Brian will be conducting a sit-down interview with Ed and Phil this Saturday during our Crown Jewel coverage. If that goes well and there's no scuffle between them, I'm sure we can talk about Brian Children getting his job back. Clash of the Comics will be available to watch in the UK later this year, but if you're outside of the UK, you can catch the whole show on pay-per-view anytime for 7 days starting from as soon as the show ends this evening. Just visit clashofthecomics.live to witness wrestling and comedy history. But it's Wednesday, you know what that means. It's not Thursday, which is when I would usually review AEW Dynamite. But it was on last night. So here's my review of AEW Dynamite, Title Tuesday. The show opened with a showdown between Hangman Adam Page and Samoa Joe, which was so incredibly awesome. Page has said that a lot of things have happened to him in AEW, like committing arson and dressing up as the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. But Joe's actions last week really confused him. He wanted to give Joe a title shot because he owed him one, not because he kicked and screamed about getting one. He added that he believes Joe is just angry that Page is the champion, and Joe replied that a lot of what Hangman said was true. His problem is that when he looks at Page with the title, he doesn't see the pinnacle of this business. He sees a pretender, a fraud. Without the ops, Page might not be champion, and it's time that Joe won back the title that he's been distracted from chasing. He said that he's going to choke Page out, and Hangman told him that for every shot Joe gives him, he'll give 2 back. He'll get his ass kicked, sure, but he can outlast Joe, and when he wins, he wants Joe to shake his hand and recognize him as the champion of the world. It was so cool and it was so awesome and I loved it so much. Jon Moxley beat Tomohiro Ishii in a brilliantly fun house match that was stiffer than Booker T during a women's match in NXT. Mox won with a choke. We got a great video promo for Tony Storm versus Chris Statlander, and the Hurt Syndicate got some measure of revenge when they beat the Demand in a street fight. It was messy at times, including a 450 that got I Am the Tabled, but had a wicked finish as Bobby hit this wild release German suplex to Ricochet through a table in the corner. Jurassic Express beat some lads. Jack is now called Jungle Jack Perry, by the way, and the Bucks attacked him and Luchasaurus afterwards. The Bucks challenged them to a match at WrestleDream, which will now be for $500,000 as Matt and Nick asked Tony Khan to make it a money match because they're broke. Kyle Fletcher beat Kyle O'Reilly to retain the TNT Championship in a great match that gave us the Kyle O'Reilly flavor that we wanted from him since joining AEW, but injuries have kept from us. The Don Callis family brawled with the conglomeration afterwards, and it was announced that Fletcher will defend his title against Mark Briscoe at WrestleDream. There was no Andrade this week. Mercedes Moné had an open challenge for her TBS Championship, which was accepted by Lacey Lane, the former Kaden Carter in WWE, with a name that sounds like JC Jane was having a Mr. Snurub moment. Lane had a good showing here, and Mercedes gave her a lot, even if the crowd didn't. Mercedes won. Match of the night across both shows was Konosuke Takeshita and Kazuchika Okada beating Bro Dito to earn a tag title shot at WrestleDream. The story of the match was that Hechicero of the Don Callis family had taken out Bandito's arm at a CMLL show over the weekend, and that became an Achilles heel for the tag champion as he could not hit the 21 plex and fell to the Rainmaker. Jet Speed, Willow Nightingale, FTR and Megan Bayne all cut promos ahead of their collision match, and the main event saw Orange Cassidy beat Pac in a fun main event that never quite captured the magic of their previous encounters. Partly because Pac now wrestles in a singlet and looks like a totally different person. If he didn't do a promo earlier in the show with his incredibly thick Geordie accent, I could have sworn they'd recast him. The match also had a wacky ending where Darby Allin cuffed Pac to the guardrail, which led to a count-out near fall before OC hit the orange punch for the win. I thought the finish was really quite weak, and the wackiness continued as Darby Allin brawled with the Death Riders and threatened to use a Molotov cocktail before he was tackled by security. This It's all a bit too much for me, and it came off, I felt, very, very silly. But overall, it was a solid enough edition of AEW Dynamite with some great wrestling and an awesome promo to kick off the show. That said, probably was lesser than last week's episode. And it's still Tuesday. You know what that means. It's now time for my review of NXT Showdown. Don't you dare call it an invasion, where they went head to head with TNA. The show opened with the Hardy Boys beating Darkseid to win the NXT Tag Team Championships in a match that was super sloppy at times with several botches. The Dudley Boys and Carlos Silva were shown at ringside, and Silva was across this show so much as a representation of TNA that he gave off real Dixie Carter vibes, thus making him a fitting president of Total Nonstop Action. The women's side of Team NXT beat the women's side of Team TNA, with Sol Ruka and JCJ, not Lacey Lane, being the sole survivors. Kalani Jordan actually went down 3-1 and had the match won with a visual pin, but Jordan Grace, who was the special guest referee, was distracted by the inspiration at ringside. Sol Ruka then hit the Soul Snatcher, and JCJ tagged herself in to steal the glory. The match was fine enough. Hilariously, Kalani Jordan was announced as the winner when she eliminated Lola Vice, but the Team TNA lineup was an absolute joke. A current NXT star, someone who was in NXT just a few months ago, and the Iconics, coming out to their NXT music no less, didn't exactly have TNA vibes. Ava booked Matt Cardona versus Josh Briggs for next week, and Ethan Page retained the North American Championship against Mustafa Ali in a match where the story was that Ali is cursed in WWE. He was running wild and had this insane dive to the outside, but got his foot caught in Booker T's headset cords, and that allowed Page to hit the Twist of Fate for the win. This was a really good match, easily the best of the episode. Lexis King did some comedy with Dr. Wagner Jr., they're having a match next week, and Blake Monroe set her sights on the North American Championship by sowing some seeds of dissension between Zarya and Sol Ruka. And the main event saw the men's side of Team TNA beat the men's side of Team NXT, and really, TNA only won because Trick Williams abandoned his NXT teammates. And despite having a 4-on-1 advantage, Team TNA struggled to put Ricky Saints away, and he even managed to eliminate Frankie Kazarian and Leon Slater in the process. Moose then accidentally hit Santana with a spear, but they managed to get back on the same page to finally put Saints down. It was fine, I guess, but ultimately it didn't feel like any of it actually mattered, especially when it cut backstage to Avon and Santino just chatting and smiling and saying, well, that's all put behind us now, the partnership can continue. Will you please come next week? I've got a battle royal to crown a new #1 contender. It almost feels like the controversy last week has spooked them into cutting this angle short, or there was no actual angle to begin with. I was so stoked for this episode of NXT, but was pretty underwhelmed by it overall. It's certainly less than last week's episode. But speaking of TNA, Ollie and I will be sitting down today to record the next episode of our Aces and Eights review series, where we'll look at TNA Lockdown 2013. You can watch the first episode of the series by clicking the video on screen right now.